Well, let's start by going back to the beginning of the design process. Tell me about how you decided how you were going to update or reimagine StarCraft.
Well, our real goal with StarCraft II was sort of recapture the magic of the original StarCraft and update this game into the 21st century and really work on a lot of the core design philosophies that made the original StarCraft really great and sort of keep working on them as though the process had kind of continued. So while the three races in the original StarCraft were very different from one another, we wondered if we could make them even more different from one another and make it feel like these are just radically different approaches to fighting it out in a real-time strategy battle.
Well, StarCraft, the original game, is still really popular. After 10 years, people are still playing it. It's practically a national sport in South Korea. So why now? Why was it suddenly right now to revisit the game?
There's a couple answers to that. One of them was, of course, that the Warcraft 3 team was finally done with all of their expansions and done with helping out on World of Warcraft. But I think the really important answer, the one that really sort of pushed Blizzard into wanting to make this game now, is the technology has finally caught up to a point where we can actually display and show a really cool game with as many units as you'll see in a battle in StarCraft. StarCraft is a game about large armies, battling large armies, about battle cruiser squadrons, right, versus legions of Marines. I mean, this is what StarCraft is about. And for the longest time, the 3D technology hasn't quite been there to allow the scale of StarCraft to really be shown on the PC. And so it's finally arrived, and we're very excited about it.
With the technology available to do all of these units on screen, one of the key decisions that you made based on the version that's being shown here at BlizzCon is the decision to remove the 12-unit control cap. That must have made dramatic changes to the game's strategy and the way that it played. Could you discuss that for a minute, why you made that decision, and how it affects StarCraft 2?
Absolutely. So we definitely removed the control limit on how many units you could control in StarCraft 2, and our thinking on that was we wanted the game to be as easy to play as we could possibly make it. Now, of course, we still want players to be able to show off their skill level, and we still want the game to be a very challenging game that you can continue to get better at year after year after year, which is what made the original StarCraft, one of the things that made the original StarCraft so great. So we've definitely removed that cap. We've made the interface to use in that way and in a number of other ways as well. You can rally point your peons directly to the resources. There's lots of innovations in the interface that make the interface easier for people to use. At the same time, all of our unit designs are set up so that anybody can just use them with a simple attack move command and something useful will happen. But skilled players can absolutely micro these units in just horrifically interesting ways to really tear up the enemy. I mean, if you see a very skilled player using stalkers in a rolling retreat, blinking away from focused enemy fire, it is amazing to watch the skill this requires, the clicks this requires to take, and the thinking that you have to do to sort of stay ahead of the game. So for us, the goal was make the interface simple, easy to use. That should be the goal of almost every game, right? And at the same time, provide enough opportunity for skilled players to really show what they can do.
At BlizzCon, obviously, this is kind of the first time people have actually been able to get hands-on. And you've certainly got any number of fanatical players, both from North America and Europe, and certainly South, and certainly Korea and the rest of Asia. While wandering around, if you've had the opportunity, have you seen anything that made you say, wow, that was incredible, I didn't know my game could do that? And has anything you've seen here made you want to go back to the drawing board and say, okay, here's some changes we need to make?
Well, one of the things being here really makes me want to do is get the Zerg into the game very, very badly. Because while the game is really fun with 2 races, it's even more fun with 3. I haven't had a ton of time to walk around the floor. I've been doing a lot of interviews, obviously, to sort of tell people about the game. But it's really exciting to see. I got a chance to see some pro gamers play on Thursday, and it was really exciting to see how quickly they took to the game, how quickly they were sort of moving through the tech tree, and how quickly they were able to sort of understand what was going on and try some of the more crazy strategies. I definitely saw a large-scale Reaper attack in one game that was really exciting to see, that was one of our new units that we really were hoping would be a unit that players would sort of key in on and be able to find ways to use it. And these guys just understood what it was for almost right away, and were just charging into battle with 15 or 20 of these and dancing out of enemy attacks and throwing their bombs all over the place. It was really exciting to see them do it.
You had mentioned that you started StarCraft 2 right after Warcraft 3 was finished. One of the things that I and many other gamers have noticed is that the Warcraft and StarCraft designs and universes have kind of diverged in terms of strategic bias, if you will. How did the development of Warcraft 3 influence StarCraft, and have you made any decision in terms of stuff you would like to have brought over from Warcraft 3 and stuff that you definitely want to make different?
One of our goals, obviously, is to make these two games play as differently as we possibly can. We want to make sure that Warcraft 3 remains true to the core design choices that were made for that game. The focus on heroes, the focus on small-scale skirmishes where it's your hero and his group of warriors against the enemy hero and their group of warriors. And for StarCraft, it's obviously about these large armies battling it out. So they're very different games. And so, one of the goals that we said earlier, we're not going to use heroes in this game. We're not going to have, a unit that's leveling up throughout the game. This is not a game about finding and destroying enemy creeps. This is a game about large armies, sometimes scattered all over the map, fighting in different locations simultaneously, if you can manage it, right? Having your core base, but also having expansions that are very important to your economy. We're definitely trying to create a game where the strategic elements are extremely important. You can absolutely win a game of StarCraft simply by building the best economy, by building the best base, and by expanding successfully. But you can also win games of StarCraft by micromanaging your units, putting exactly the right unit in exactly the right location. And it's the tension between these two, between the strategic and the tactical, that made the original StarCraft so exciting to watch and so exciting to play. And it's that same kind of gameplay we're trying to recreate here for StarCraft 2.
That sounds really cool. There's one of the things that we've seen here at BlizzCon is that for the first time you've shown some elements of the single-player campaign. Now, there's two schools of thought when it comes to single-player campaign. Some RTS developers believe that the single-player campaign should be kind of a training ground for multiplayer. Others believe that the single-player campaign should be its own separate experience. Where does Blizzard, in particular StarCraft 2, fall on this debate, and how has that influenced the design of the single-player campaign?
We absolutely feel that the single-player experience should be a great experience in its own right. And certainly for this game, we're definitely viewing it as much less of a training ground for the multiplayer experience. Single-player is definitely a game that you will play and hopefully enjoy several times over playing through the gameplay experience. So we're definitely focused on bringing a really epic single-player experience, and we're pouring a lot of resources into this, as you may have seen in our demo here at BlizzCon. There's lots of different ways you can play through this campaign. The player now has the choice over which missions he would like to play next, the types of technologies he may want to bring to the battlefield. The other thing that we're doing with a single-player campaign that I'm very excited about is, when we've said we're having a very racially diverse game in the multiplayer experience, now we're doing the same thing in the solo-player experience, right? The core mechanics of the Terran solo-play campaign is Raynor is a mercenary pirate criminal who commands an assorted group of mercenaries, freedom fighters, and other scum from Terran space in his quest across the stars. And he collects money that he takes from people for doing jobs for them, and then he spends these on illegal technology bought in from the black market. This is obviously not the same gameplay that's going to exist for the Zerg or for the Protoss. The Zerg will have their own problems to deal with. The Protoss will have their own problems to deal with. And as a result, they'll have their own game mechanics that push them towards taking different types of missions. So while previously the campaigns were fairly similar in their approach, now in StarCraft 2, racial diversity now is also core to the solo play experience.
Warcraft 3 multiplayer, fairly soon after the game launched, became pretty brutal for newbies. You would go online and you would get killed fairly fast. Now that we've had some hands-on time, one of the elements of StarCraft 2 is that because so much of the strategy is sort of devolved down to the unit level, there is, even on a moderately skilled player, some measure of micromanagement needed to be decent at the game. Therefore, what kinds of things are you introducing to make both the game and the multiplayer aspects friendly to new people?
So the real key for any real-time strategy game, but especially a game like StarCraft 2, is that you're playing against somebody of equal skill level. If you're playing somebody at your skill level, it doesn't matter if you're both noobs or you're both pro players. It's fun. It's fun to play, and it's even fun to watch those people play, no matter what your skill level is. So one of our goals for BattleNet will absolutely be to try to find ways to make sure that you're always playing against players that are of comparable skill level. And then I think you'll have fun no matter what. But yeah, if you get out of your league, you're going to get in trouble, and that's all there is to it. I can't save you from that. All I can try to do is make absolutely sure that you get into a game with people who are similar to your skill, and then I think you'll have a great time.
I think one of the really interesting things at BlizzCon is that people finally got a few answers regarding some of the characters that they've come to really love from StarCraft 2. We know that Kerrigan is coming back. We know that Jim Raynor is coming back. We know that Zeratul is coming back, and that we saw him bleeding on the floor. So what I wanted to ask is, within Blizzard, is there one person who kind of handles and controls the StarCraft lore, and or is it a collaborative effort? And whichever way it is, how do you decide out of all the potential ideas where you want to take this universe?
I mean, to be fair, it's kind of both. We have Chris Metzen, who is absolutely sort of the heart and soul of our lore, and who knows all of our lore and keeps a watch over it, and absolutely sort of drives that part of our gameplay experience. At the same time, he's got a team of people who also help him with it, who work on story ideas and submit them to him and move the thing forward. And everybody on the team, like everything to do with Blizzard game design and Blizzard product development, has some input with these guys. So if there's a character I want to see back, I can absolutely go to Chris and say, hey, I really want to see this character make it back into the mix, or hey, I really don't like what you're doing with Zeratul, or whatever it is, right? So Chris Metzen is absolutely the guy who sort of manages our lore and makes sure that we're going in a really great direction with each game. But at the same time, of course, the team has a lot of input.
Dustin, I wanted to thank you so much for taking time out of, I'm sure it's a very busy schedule here at BlizzCon. The game looks terrific, and I hope you have a great rest of the show.